Hi, so the next topic is the cycling of carbon. You can actually study this chapter just by looking at one graph of the carbon cycle. But allow me to rephrase this unit. I would like to rephrase this unit as the different forms of carbon in the ecosystem. In other words, where can we find carbon and in which form is it found in the ecosystem? So let's start by saying that carbon is normally found as a gas in the atmosphere, so CO2 gas. And this gas can be absorbed by your plants or your producers through the process called photosynthesis. So where is carbon now? It's in the plants, and it's in the form of chemical energy. In this case, starch, or the monomer, which is glucose. Now, where's carbon now? In the plant. What organism consumes your plant? So you have your consumers. So organisms, different kinds of organism. Let me just put a smiley, that's you. So where is carbon now? In a consumer. So I drew here an animal. So all of these animals that consumed energy from your plants, they use this C6H12O6 and they metabolize this so that they can get energy in the process called cellular respiration. And you all know that the process of cellular respiration has a byproduct called carbon dioxide, which is exhaled back into the atmosphere. So where's carbon now? Back into the atmosphere. These living organisms will eventually die, and when these organic materials, so when these organisms die, they are going to be decomposed. So where is the carbon now? In the soil. Now, partial decomposition of organic material. Let me add the dinosaur. That's a dinosaur. So, partial decomposition of your once living organic matter can actually result into fossils. So, these fossils, right here, fossil fuels, oil or coal. So what have we discovered? These fossil fuels, we can actually burn them. And as we burn them, we release back carbon in the form of CO2 into the atmosphere. Now, where else can we find carbon? Depending on temperature, carbon can actually be dissolved in water or bodies of water. And it can be dissolved as a gas, or it can react with water to form carbonic acid. H2CO3. Now, there are special marine organisms that actually takes up this carbon dioxide and uses that to form calcium carbonate, CaCO3. This calcium carbonate is the primary ingredient of the shells of your mollusks. So you have shells, they're exoskeleton, or you can also have corals. So where's carbon now? It's in the water in the form of calcium carbonate. When these organisms die, normally calcium carbonate gets decomposed, but when the environment is neutral or alkaline, these organisms, the hard parts, the shells of these organisms can be deposited as sediments in the ocean floor, and we call it limestone. So where is carbon now? In the beach, in the form of limestone. All right, there's another form of carbon in the ecosystem, and we call it methane. Let me give you a very short story about methane. So we have a scientist named Alessandro Volta, and he observed that in an ecosystem, he saw mud, that's mud, and he saw bubbling. So what he did was he took a sample of those bubbles, tested out in the lab. Lo and behold, that's a flame. It was flammable. And he named this gas methane. Now what is happening? In your swamps, mangroves, so muddy areas, or landfills, you have what we call methanogenic bacteria. As the name implies, this group of bacteria can actually metabolize nutrients from these ecosystems and in the process release a gas called methane. So where's carbon now in the atmosphere? In what form? Methane gas, CH4. Okay, so a common question for the IB exam is explain the process of methanogenesis. So to review, bacteria can metabolize organic matter from these ecosystems and form methane. That's the simplified version. Let's look at the more complex stuff. So you have to know that there are three groups of bacteria that are involved here. So the first group of bacteria converts your organic matter into alcohol, acid, hydrogen, and carbon dioxide. By the way, these are anaerobic organisms. All right, now another group of microorganisms that converts these alcohol and acids into acetate, CH3, COOH. Now the last group of bacteria are the methanogenic bacteria. They are from the domain Archaea. So what do methanogenic bacteria do? They take carbon dioxide right here and hydrogen to form methane. How do they do that? So carbon dioxide, hydrogen to form methane, and water. Let's balance the equation. 2, this is 8, 4, 5, 7, 8, so that's 4. Oxygen 2, and we need a 2 here. 4, 4, 8, 2, 2. Okay? And this group of bacteria can also take that acetate, convert it, break it into methane. Okay, so that's how your third group of anaerobic microorganism produce methane. Alright, just a quick correction. These two are anaerobic bacteria. These three, I'm sorry if I use the word bacteria. They used to belong in that classification. They are now in a separate domain called Archaea. Alright. Okay, so again, I rephrased this unit as the different forms of carbon in the ecosystem. Where can you find carbon and in what form? So it can be a gas in the atmosphere. It can be in the form of a chemical structure, your glucose. It can be in the form of fossil fuels. It can be in the form of solid, which is calcium carbonate. It can be in the form of another gas, which is methane.